Hello there, this is Twin Peaks Coffee Time today on the 27th of February 2025, and I'm James, pleased to be back doing the show again. Um, Earlier, if anyone was watching then, basically the mic and camera were not linking properly to the video, so I've just started to do one again now. Hope this finds any viewers who might tune in now, including earlier we had Phantom Cooper, maybe joining us again. But if Phantom Cooper isn't joining us again, then obviously some people might watch after the fact, if I distribute the video here, there, and everywhere throughout the highways and byways of Twin Peaks world, as it is, the Twin Peaks universe. So, I mean, I've not really been doing these videos much during the last month. The last one I did with Johnny was more of a general Twin Peaks discussion, mainly talking about things like the second season and the return. Obviously, in the wake of the news about Lynch, which was about a month ago. Well, no, it was 15th or 16th of January, but anyway, now it is the 27th of February. So it's over a month later after the passing of David Lynch. And, at some point, I'm sure I will be doing videos centering on, Lynch and Twin Peaks again, to some extent. Probably to a big extent, considering that the channel's called Twin Peaks Coffee Time. But, at the same time, I think it's worth talking about general observations and discussions with regards to films nowadays, reflections on films from the past that we may like or otherwise, but kind of comparing those to ones that are coming out now, a general feeling of, especially from Mandela Man when he was on the show, the start of this year, etc. And before that, he was saying that a lot of new films nowadays coming out, predominantly talking from, America, mainstream or otherwise, were sort of leaving him a bit, feeling a bit empty, or, just generally thinking they weren't very good, basically. So I don't really know what to say about that, other than, obviously I can offer my own feelings with regards to films. But, I probably don't feel quite as bad a opinion on things as that. But, in terms of films nowadays, I suppose, I think the films I've seen this year so far, I went to see both times on Screen 7 in the showcase here locally in Derby city centre. There's basically a big showcase cinema there in the shopping centre, the Derbyan as it's now called, which I've no idea what that's supposed to mean. But other than the fact that it's in Derby, with Derby, but then ION, which makes me think of the company EON, or I don't know, it could mean anything. Just makes me think of the James Bond films. I think Eon was responsible for those films, or at least a company attached to them. But now apparently Amazon is going to be in charge of the James Bond films, which no doubt they could make maybe the next James Bond film entirely within a Amazon facility, or Amazon packing and warehouse distribution, etc., where they're getting ready socks and hats or moisturising cream and DVDs or something. DVDs of James Bond, and then James Bond has to get them ready in within a certain allotted time, and that basically could be the entire film, because then they could have James Bond getting the norovirus, or maybe not COVID, that's a bit old hat, but whatever new virus is coming out from Africa or wherever at the moment, some kind of respiratory illness, and then he has to battle that, take a serum for that, and then deliver more parcels with Amazon, i.e., going to houses and delivering them within, again, another countdown. All of this would, of course, be non-violent, because I think the James Bond films went as far as they should or could, in terms of violence and American cinema as such, even though, it is a ostensibly British kind of product. Or, I don't know how much that is really true, really, anymore, but the new James Bond films could be just that kind of thing. I think, mainly just James Bond delivering Amazon parcels. No violence at all whatsoever, other than maybe sometimes putting people's parcels in weird places, or it guarantees that they get stolen, and then people have to report whatever they've ordered from Amazon as saying, it's not come, where the hell is it? And then you could have maybe James Bond working in the call centre saying, trying to be sort of civilised and suave or something, the name's Bond, James Bond. My parcel's not arrived. What is it? Mandate, eau de toilette, body spray, and a flannel, a grey flannel. Where do you think it was put? Or where was it supposed to have been put? Outside my house next to a drainage pipe. Is it there now? Why would I be ringing up if it's not there now? If it's there now, for God's sake, it's been nicked. My neighbour, Darren, has stolen it, I'm sure. Have you got any proof of this? Hello, this is Bond, James Bond. I'm very suave. Can you please give me a martini on the rocks, shaken not stirred? Then he would get probably sacked from the job for drinking on the job. So just imagine, what that would be like. And I hope that people who, now Amazon, obviously, I'm going to have to try and distribute this video to them. Hopefully they'll get behind that idea, and it's going to be an idea which, really pumps the James Bond franchise into the 2020s, or even beyond that. So anyway, let me just check. I can't click on the screen properly because I've been cleaning my laptop and the touchpad is not working now. Let me just check what's happening here. Right. Okay. This is ridiculous. Alright. Hello, James. AI reads my childhood diaries. You're a very solid person who comes into the chat, which I appreciate. I don't know if you want to maybe give me some more comments or something that would therefore make this video 2 hours instead of half an hour, but I think 2 hours would be excessive, really. But who's to say? Maybe 2 hours is long enough. I think AI reads my childhood diaries is one of the best names I've ever heard for somebody on a video stream. So I'm always thankful for the imaginative names and sometimes, controversial comments, but that's not a very controversial comment. Hello, James. And probably I could find some way to get riled about that and angry, but that's just me. So I'm not going to do that on this occasion. because it's just would be pathetic trying for entertainment value by making up a load of nonsense, which of course I would never do. So yeah, let me just get back to the point. I don't know where the hell all that James Bond stuff came from in relation to Amazon. That was just not even funny and just ridiculous. But yeah, as you can see, I've made a new set for the coffee time in a actual sort of a coffee colour, but it's not really the kind of coffee I drink with lots of milk in it. In terms of the wall there, this is more of a mellow birds or possibly camp coffee decoration. They can see the book Images from David Lynch. This is some design artwork of factories, so a bit Lynchian, Twin Peaksian. This is a rather Twin Peaksian looking National Museum of Photography, Film and Television, which is now called the National Media Museum in Bradford. This is something which has always been in the family in to some extent, in terms of I've visited there with my dad going back a long time now, but my brother worked there. That's where the famous incident with me meeting Malcolm McDowell in the toilets happened, when he was introducing and talking about A Clockwork Orange. Yeah, I did actually see him in the toilets with me, and there was no one else in the toilets other than me and Malcolm McDowell. So that was a moment of just starstruckness, and that is Crikey, the Great British Comics magazine, issue 2, from probably over 10 years ago, but it's something I bought in Sheffield. I can remember from it's called something like the National Space Shop or something like this, but it's actually just a comics and that kind of thing type of shop. But that magazine there is called Movie. I'll just get that one, I think. As you can see, My Brilliant Career, Judy Davis and Sam Neill. Not a film I've seen, but obviously pretty famous. Winner of 7 awards, Best Film, Actress, Director. My Brilliant Career. Sam Neill is a very good actor, so I mean Judy Davis, I'm sure, is a very good actor as well, but actor. And this cover, I thought, I was looking at this the other day when it was just down there, and then this has got obviously Gene Hackman on the cover in Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, which is, I think he basically plays somebody who works maybe on his own, but he is doing work for the CIA. He's a sort of basically a bugger, somebody who's bugging a room, a hotel room or apartment, whatever, and then he basically thinks that he's being bugged. And there's a whole sequence in the film where Gene Hackman, playing the role he's in, Harry Cole, he's an invader of privacy, the best in the business. He can record any conversation between 2 people anywhere. So far, 3 people are dead because of him. I mean, that is a great poster and a great film. I mean, it might sound a bit, maybe by today's standards, not that thrilling, but I think, because it's not got multiple cars exploding, shot from 50 different angles, and then they used about 20 cars just to blow up to create, a car chase, and then the main actor in it is sort of almost, like an athlete or just able to jump over fences from any different angle, like Liam Neeson in Taken 3. And, I think a film like The Conversation is much more based around, what you see on screen, and obviously in a film like that, dealing with sound uh, and recording, it deals a lot with the actual soundtrack, of course, and just the audio element of it, as well as the visual, of course. But being a film from Francis Ford Coppola in his sort of 70s heyday, I would say it's obviously one of his best films and one of Gene Hackman's best films. But even though it might sound to some people, my point being, it's not everything exploding and, just like thrillers nowadays, where I don't really know if they even make thrillers anymore in the general sense, I don't know. They've always got to be action something, or thriller, adventure, type of thing, with a lot of CGI and stuff. And that was possibly one of the problems with certainly the fourth and fifth Indiana Jones films, which effectively should be just really a action film or adventure film with a thriller element, but they went overboard with the CGI element, in my opinion, and this sort of takes the film into something else. So yeah, this is a whole. Yeah, it's all. The article is called "All the Conspirators." This is chapter 81 of the movie magazine, have they called it. It's actually, like issue 81. And you collect these. I think they came out weekly. And, you would think so if they were at the 81st issue. And basically, there's obviously a lot of people working on this magazine. The Illustrated History of the Cinema. Orbis Publishing, London, and it came out in 1981, printed in Norwich. Oh, that's obviously an Alan Partridge reference, which is just taking it a bit far, but off the map. But the paranoid conviction that society or a group within it was plotting some murderous scheme came to dominate a whole group of movies in the nervous 70s. Probably just as relevant now as it was then, unfortunately, this kind of paranoia. The sense of being watched or overheard by unknown enemies and the fear that society is itself corrupt are the ingredients of 70s conspiracy films. It mentions, of course, Rear Window, going back to the 50s. I Was a Communist for the FBI. There's another film poster here. That's an actual film title. I Was a Communist for the FBI. Gene Hackman in The Conversation. Best film, Cannes Film Festival, 1974. It's also got The Parallax View with... not Parallax View. That's another film maybe in this sort of whole area of film, genre, whatever you want to call it. Like this also includes 8mm footage of the Kennedy assassination in the corner here. That's obviously a relevant topic. There's 3 Days of the Condor, 1975. There's actually a block of flats, a new apartments, they perhaps wouldn't like them to be called, in the centre of Derby called the Condor, which is new. But I don't think they named it that after the film, 3 Days of the Condor, with Faye Dunaway and Robert Redford. Chinatown. Mickey One, Warren Beatty, Mr. Arcadin in The House on 92nd Street. Anyway, I've not heard of all these films. Executive Action with Burt Lancaster, Robert Ryan, Will Geer. Another film I've not heard of. But, well, I have heard of the title, but I've never seen it. Gene Hackman, one of the most relevant of modern superstars, to get back to the sort of main topic here, in that he's been obviously today in the news, but you know, I don't really like to just make shows about sort of in tribute or something like that just on the day of, you know, some news or whatever about Gene Hackman being obviously in a situation where he was 95 and he was found with his wife and dog, having met their demise in some kind of situation which I don't know if there's any explanation for it at the moment. Some people have mentioned that it could have been carbon monoxide poisoning. I don't understand where they got that one from, but I suppose it's a possibility. I did see a post about it initially from Damon Packard, who's a well-known independent filmmaker and general artist from LA, and he was saying, I don't know what's happened exactly, but you know, in tribute to Gene Hackman and everything, but somebody said maybe the dog was responsible, but I don't know how that's. I'm not really sure how that could be possible. Maybe the dog dismantled the carbon monoxide alarm, or you know, the detector, and then there was something happened with carbon monoxide, and so the alarm didn't go off because the dog maybe ate the alarm. But I don't think that happened. That sounds highly unlikely, and that would just be, you know, a terrible set of events. But you know, to talk about it seriously and everything, you know, Gene Hackman is someone who I really grew to appreciate, having seen when the first time I watched The French Connection properly, and then subsequently The French Connection 2, which was a sort of belated sequel done about 4 years later or 5 years later after the first one, which seemed maybe a bit long after for a sequel, and people appreciated the second one more and more probably after TV viewings and things like that. It really wasn't on a par with William Friedkin's original film in terms of the you know, overall style and approach and combination of just action with pretty unusual soundtracking and, you know, score and everything about it, just his frenetic editing and sort of documentary style approach. They couldn't really match that in the subsequent film, which was it John Frankenheimer who did the second one? But anyway, I mean, the second one was more of a conventional sort of thriller, I suppose, but it had enough about it to be a decent sequel for me. Mainly, obviously, that comes down to Gene Hackman carrying the film with his performance and all of the sort of things that happened to his character involving Popeye Doyle, who's based on a real character. But of course, Popeye Doyle didn't get involved in real life, going to Marseille or you know, getting involved in this pursuit of a guy who was in charge of the entire, you know, the boss of the whole drug smuggling ring, you know, which was being pursued throughout the first film. There was the very famous car chase in that first film throughout New York, much of which was filmed for real pretty much. In the second film, you know, there were a bunch of different action sequences, which were well made and everything. It was well filmed, but it didn't really have the same just sort of balls to the wall antics of the first film. And I don't know if Friedkin would have liked me describing it as antics, but yeah, the first film was like literally Friedkin all over, just this sort of no holds barred approach, similar to Friedkin's kind of personality, I would say. If you look at a film like Cruising as well, it's pretty similar with Al Pacino, where, I would say Cruising is a little bit more, not quite as off the cuff as, say, the original, The French Connection, but it's definitely a film worth watching, Cruising with Al Pacino, where he is undercover pretending to be gay, going to gay clubs and stuff. The Mandate gay magazine is featured in Cruising, not the body spray, which I highly recommend. I actually bought a new can of Mandate yesterday, a new aerosol of it, 99p in B&M. So I do think that Mandate, since I've been, promoting it so much on the previous channel, which had, we were getting on for about 800 subscribers, but I don't really think that number of subscribers tallied with any kind of viewers. It seemed like a lot of those people who subscribed were just people who were there when the return came out and everything, and they subscribed to the channel. Then there would be people unsubscribing, and there were quite a lot of people who subscribed after that. But obviously, I would have liked it to go, much higher than that, into the thousands and things. But I really don't know if that's going to be a possibility on this channel unless I improve the videos a lot, and do videos that are sort of not just Twin Peaks centric or Lynch centric or even Mark Frost centric. I could do discussions of other TV shows and movies as I see them, but I'll move on from the Gene Hackman topic, and I'm sure people will find out what happened there. But in conclusion to that whole segment now, I would just say, Hackman was obviously a really great actor. Not necessarily a conventional one, in the sense of, I don't know, even comparing to someone like Warren Beatty of his same era, or he was actually at acting school with Dustin Hoffman, but I was reading an article today about him saying that for some reason Hackman got the lowest possible marks in one acting course he was in. Maybe he was just totally not making any effort or something. Then he went to New York and he was on stage as well, in that kind of milieu and setting, and he basically learned method acting, and he would actually go out even to learn how to behave like people that he would see on the streets of Manhattan, or you can see that in something like The French Connection. Obviously, I would imagine that a lot of his behaviour was his own, as well as attributed to, say, the real life Popeye Doyle, the guy who was playing in French Connection. This quite, sort of, active, exciting figure to some extent. I mean, of course, he played characters who were pretty lively, but a lot of that came out of probably Gene Hackman's own personality, in that he'd had quite a difficult upbringing where his father left, and subsequently his mother died in a fire, which was a result of her smoking, whilst drinking, and then, the house was on fire or whatever. And so, you can only imagine the kind of effect that would have had on him growing up. But he said that he would have used that kind of thing in a very almost scientific kind of or specific kind of way, coldly almost, just summoning his own, I suppose, what people would describe as demons or just events from the past. His dad giving him a wave, and he said, I realised this was my dad basically going, bye. This is all yours now. I don't know what that means, but basically, the world is yours, which is a bit of a James Bond type of credo. But I think, for a young guy like him, it would probably not ideal to be in that kind of situation, to say the least. But because he probably lacked what Sailor Moon said as parental guidance in One at Heart, he joined the Marines 2 years early when he was, I presume, either 14 or 16, whether you're supposed to be 18 to join him. I think you can join when you're 16, but apparently he joined when he was 14. I have no idea exactly the specifics on all of this, but he did in those days do that, and that presumably was far more possible at that stage in those times, I'm sure it would be pretty difficult to do nowadays in America, but in the US, to join the Marines 2 years early, but clearly it said in the article, which seemed a bit like, trying to make his life into sort of seeming like a film, is it was saying kind of, he was looking for adventure. So, looking for adventure, head out on the highway. So, sorry, I could just see someone jogging past wearing shorts just there. I think it was actually a female. And then I just started singing, head out on the highway. That's why I did that. So, it's quite good though that it's still light here. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go and close the window though, because I don't want people to be hearing me speaking. Mm-hmm. Yes, moving swiftly on. This was a book that I took to having a look at, having known about, everything with regards to Lynch and the LA, well, Hollywood fires, I suppose. Funnily enough, when I was turning on the television, and then I saw in a corner somewhere on a sort of news source, entertainment news feature from somewhere, it was coming up as saying remembering Lynch or remembering David Lynch, and I thought, remembering, oh no, I hope this is not what I think it is. Obviously I knew it was news about Lynch's passing, and so yeah, I was quite surprised to see that. On the other hand, I mean, we all, on coffee time, we spent quite a lot of time, which may have seemed a bit not exactly brilliant to be doing, but we picked up on the emphysema diagnosis that he had, and from some of his videos, we could tell that there was a certain something going on, but it, again, at the same time, we didn't, I don't think, certainly from me anyway, a lot of my thoughts were just, oh, Lynch will be okay, and we heard he was in good health otherwise. So pretty much the news came as a definite point, a blow for anybody who obviously loves Lynch as a whole, in his TV and film output, etc. So, funnily enough, though, when the day or so after that, in terms of just turning on the TV, which I honestly don't do massively. I mean, I will watch EastEnders and probably some TV if I can find anything of interest, But I will watch films. But it came up as recommending the first film on the list was on Amazon Prime or Prime, films. The Believers, which is a film by Mark Frost, and not directed by him, but he wrote the film version. And that film is from 1987 with Martin Sheen, and there's a lot in that film which is very much, it almost seems very Lynchian almost, even though Lynch had he had no input whatsoever in that film, in terms of the film. I mean, it was obviously adapted from a novel by Mark Frost. I don't know exactly how much, Frost added, but it's got Martin Sheen as a psychiatrist whose son somehow gets involved with this cult in a ceremony after his wife dies in a so-called freak accident where the coffee machine electrocutes her in a sort of slightly surreal scene at the beginning, and that's what spurs everything on in the film. And there's a lot in it which makes you think of the room above the convenience store scene in Fire Walk With Me, for instance, with this cult. And all I will say is just to people, just go and watch that film, The Believers. I mean, it is a bit of a perhaps, far-fetched film on some level, but it's still worth seeing, and Mark Frost's involvement probably makes it better than you would expect from a film of that type coming out in 1987. And it's surprising how many things from Frost were already there before he even really worked with Lynch, because that would have been around the same time when their mutual agent put them both in touch with each other. So, anyway, this book is by David Bushman, Conversations with Mark Frost. Twin Peaks, Hill Street Blues, and the Education of a Writer, from FayettelleMediaPress.com. So obviously it's got a lot about Twin Peaks in there, alongside, all sorts of other things that Mark Frost has been involved in, and probably talking about The List of Seven by Mark Frost. No, I've never read this, but I've got this book. It was $1.99 from Oxfam, so I think. This is a book I've shown before, but I still will recommend to anybody out there. Andreas Halskoff's Twin Peaks and Modern Television Drama, University Press of Southern Denmark. It does have a brief mention in it of things that I was involved in, going back to bring back Twin Peaks with Joe Powers, Cameron becoming involved with that, and then me doing videos with Cameron. I think there's a quote from me about something to do with Mark Frost in there, actually, about the balance between Mark Frost and David Lynch in terms of Twin Peaks. And I really am suggesting that if they didn't have the proper balance in terms of the making of the show between them, that's when the show sort of went a bit, had its, difficulties, you could say, even though you can find a lot of pleasure in the less exciting, perhaps, or less eventful episodes where the story was sort of finding its feet a bit after the reveal of Leyland Palmer, and everything that happened there. But I think, there's a lot of episodes there where you can still enjoy Twin Peaks as much as any other episodes. But I think there was an overlap period where there was probably room for them to do more stuff with Windermere, really, I think, and bring in Windermere maybe a bit earlier, even though he's mentioned going back as far as even probably the first episode of the second season. But there's certainly either at probably the second episode of the second season is when Cooper and Albert talk over breakfast, and he mentions, your former partners flew the coop, which is a line which is almost repeated in The Return, where they talk about Cooper having flown the coop. There's a lot of instances in The Return where there are references back on the original show which seem rather dreamlike, perhaps, or just strange coincidences and surreal. But I think they could have definitely introduced Windermere as a character going back even before, the reveal of Leyland Palmer as the killer of Laura Palmer, and it would have made the shows a lot more intense around that time. I mean, I don't necessarily think they would have introduced Windermere until after the 7th episode, where Leyland was introduced as the killer. And then there were 2 episodes after that involved when Leyland is finally arrested and everything that happens after that. Well, they could have maybe introduced Windermere as a character around that time, of maybe episode 8 brought in Windermere's first appearance or something in the background, whilst Leyland was still almost captured as such by. Originally they were going to be arresting Ben Horn, but that's sort of a trick on Leyland, and then they push Leyland in the cell. Whilst that was all going on, maybe they could have had Windermere arriving in Twin Peaks, in whatever way he did, which is still was not really made clear, of course. He just is there, in the cabin in the woods. I mean, they could have maybe shown some way that he got into Twin Peaks, behind the scenes. I did think, the arrival of him just suddenly appearing in the cabin in the woods was good, but it could have been maybe done, elaborated a bit, made to seem a little bit more sinister, and added to the overall mood of the show, rather than sometimes I think, even though I liked the overall thing of the pantomime elements of him being dressed up as a horse with Leo, that is obviously pretty funny, good scene. But some of his disguises, when he's like the trucker in the Double R, that's a little bit. Well, it gets to the point where it becomes pretty blatant comedy, I suppose. And I think, even though that definitely has its place in Twin Peaks as a whole, and probably helped the show recover its feet in a strange kind of way, the mixture of comedy and then the more foreboding whole Black Lodge storyline and Annie, Cooper, etc. I think the balance between all of those was pretty well done. It's just that I think they could have added certain bits in there which would have overall created more of a real, true Twin Peaks mood to the whole thing, which I felt, if anything, the episodes that don't necessarily strike you as being entirely the most truly Twin Peaks episodes, where it was trying to find its feet in the second season, the show always managed to balance the more human and comical aspects and the you know, even the soap opera sort of relationship aspects and high drama and everything, with this more darker tone, you know, that especially was there in many episodes. I mean, David Lynch's episodes for sure, many episodes, but I do think the whole Windermere storyline could have been um, given more layers, more, just far more of a darker hue in certain parts. Certainly, that could have been contrasted with some of the Windermere exploits, which were pretty daft and funny. But that's always something that Twin Peaks needed, I think. You know, it had to have that element of absurd comedy or just outright comedy at times, you know, and that would balance out the darker aspects. But I think Windermere's story could have easily been elaborated within the 22 episodes that the second season had, compared to the first series only having seven episodes on the pilot, which was made separately, of course. The pilot is a separate thing, I suppose, than the 7 episodes that ABC entered into with Lynch Frost and everything. Then the fact that they did 22 episodes of the second season is definitely something which was pretty amazing at the time, I think, and still is, you know. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen additional writing from Lynch, Frost, and others involved, and that 50-50 balance between Lynch and Frost as well in creating Windermere as well. And Lynch always said that Wyndham should only be seen in his black suit, you know, the FBI suit, rather than, I suppose, the other things going on and the dress up scenes. But you know, I don't know. I think they could have reached some kind of compromise on that. So yeah, in other news, I'll just put these over here. I think. In other major news coming forth now in the world of movies, TV, popcorn, and also Fanta and Coca-Cola, there is now going to be an awards ceremony, the Academy Awards ceremony in Hollywood, California, of the Oscars. And I just wanted to mention this, if the computer will actually let me. Nobody has come into the chat again because everyone's probably either employed or in bed. But AI reads my childhood diaries. Thank you for saying hello, James. Fanta Cooper has not arrived during this one, during this video. But yeah, in terms of the Oscars and everything, hopefully I can just put something on the screen now, which would be if the... Oh, I apologise for this. Again, another technical error, which seems almost ridiculously comical, but it's actually quite annoying. Anyway, we'll just have a go into the... Just been wiping the computer screen and the computer with some alcohol wipes, screen cleaning wipes, and now the touchpad doesn't seem to work for some unknown reason. It's not detecting my finger. So I will have to use this other thing on the keyboard, this button. Looks red. It's not letting me do anything though, is it? There we go. Oscars 2025. At least I can read something even if I can't get it on the screen. So this is happening in a few days in March. The 97th Academy Awards. It's quite a big thing, you know, it's a big deal. Just in case you've never heard of the Oscars. Um, but you know, I like to think of Coffee Time as being not the idiot's guide, but the intelligent person's guide to things going on in the world of cinema and film and etc. And anything related tangentially to Twin Peaks and David Lynch and Mark Frost and all these other factors which come into play. Where you know everybody claims, oh, Severance is much better than, it's as good as Twin Peaks. You know, and then you actually sit there and watch something like Severance, and you think, this is nothing like Twin Peaks, and it's not as good as Twin Peaks to me. But you know, that's just my opinion. So. Mm, Oscars 2025. Okay, I've got an article about the Best Actress nominees now, but I want to look at the overall Oscars, so hopefully I can find an article about this. Latest articles today on 27th of February seem to be focusing on Gene Hackman in terms of his Oscar-winning successors, you know, but why Wicked should win the Best Picture Oscar. Best Picture Oscar hustings. Hustings? Okay. I mean, yeah, and that's just, you know, one person's opinion, an article, you know, opinion piece. But I've not seen Wicked, so I can't really weigh in on that. I'm sure it's a very good film, you know, in its own way, but you know, I don't want to be just snobbish because a film's more of a fantasy or musical, etc. You know, I went to see the remake of West Side Story from Spielberg and enjoyed it. So, not necessarily the best film ever made, but it was decent enough for what it was. Wicked is a whole other kettle of fish, I suppose. But yeah, a kettle of fish is probably where they got the idea for the fish in the percolator in Twin Peaks, or maybe it was just another thing that happened behind the scenes. Who knows? Or Lynch experienced someone putting fish in a percolator, I imagine. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to make fun of the whole Gene Hackman type of news. When you read about it, it's pretty rather peculiar and sad, you know, piece of news. Gene Hackman and pianist wife Betsy Arakawa found dead at home alongside one of their dogs. That was reported at 8:42 this morning. I didn't know about it at that time, but of all things, you know, I saw it reported just through Damon Packard on Facebook. But Best Actress nominees, awards, interviews, and what their chances are. Well, I would have rather read an article about the Oscars that's about just the overall Oscars, not Best Actress. So let me just go back to the Oscars. Oscar predictions from the New York Times. I will have a look at this. That's 7 hours ago. Pete Hammond's final Oscar predictions in all 23 categories from Deadline. That's the place to go, I think. Forget about the New York Times for now at least. I don't want to start a feud with the New York Times or anything like that, like some people might do, i.e. the apparent president of the US, who I don't want to talk about. Pete Hammond's final Oscar predictions in all 23 categories. That was coming today from Pete Hammond, 7 a.m. So that's probably 7 a.m. in America, not here. So this article could have come out, could have been, made live online probably just hours ago. Pictures from Conclave, which is the film all about the Vatican and religious matters in Rome, with Ralph Fiennes. Not Ralph, is it Ralph? Yeah, Ralph Fiennes. He's obviously up for an Oscar, and I don't know if it's Best Picture as well, probably. But some people think that some voters apparently believed that Ralph Fiennes had already won an Oscar for Schindler's List, which he hadn't. I'm not sure if he was nominated, but he's not won an Oscar. So they didn't vote for him because of that reason, which is a bit, daft and erroneous. So, anyway, I really am just going on about any old random stuff nowadays on these videos, so I've got to be more specific about things if I really want to get any new subscribers or new viewers at all. I hope that happens. If it doesn't, then I don't know whether I'll need to have a sign in the background saying Twin Peaks Coffee Time in neon. That maybe would get more viewers, and maybe better guests on, including females possibly, would help to give a bit of balance and the 50-50 aspect. But I really appreciate the help from Johnny and of course Mandela Man in recent times. But I think I'm always, we had Scott on, who was good. So, there have been videos, not very many in the last month admittedly, but let's hope I can just get new ideas, and all inspiration is not just in the bin as such, which of course there's no reason for that, because our videos were always very much going all around the houses and discussing a million different things, and then coming back to Twin Peaks or whatever films we were obsessing around or fascinated by at that stage. And now for the final word, I will just maybe read the article. That'll be brilliant, but no, I won't read the entire article. I'll just give you my opinions based on what I'm reading. For the final word on who will win the Gold Sunday at the 97th Oscars. I don't even know what that means. Obviously the Oscars are happening on Sunday. Sorry, it's just sometimes the way people write and things in these articles is a bit confusing, but the Americanisms, I suppose. So it's Kids Can in May. Okay, that's quite a long time ago. I have been reviewing the movies, assessing their awards potential, predicting the Oscar nominations. Now, finally, here is my best and final guess. Finally, here is my best and final guess as to who and what will emerge triumphant in all 23 categories for the 2025 Academy Awards. So much has been written, so much has been talked about, and actually overall for me it's been a swell year for movies. Swell. At least good ones, or at the very least enough good ones to make this lineup of nominees for Oscars a deserving one. I like the use of, and now finally here is my best and final in caps. Alright, I'm not just going to read the entire article out, even though it's pretty funny to read it. maybe I just will read the entire article, but I don't know. I will add some bits when I feel like it. Let me caution, these are my predictions, some still shaky, but not necessarily what I might have voted for. In other words, this is not a wish list, but rather a reflection of where the long and ever unwinding road stood as Oscar balloting ended on February the 18th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, when the Academy called pencils down and the votes were in from its 9,945 eligible voters. I mean, 9,945, that's not even a town. You know, that's like half a town. That's a village. Or at least those who actually did vote. So, okay, a lot of those people didn't vote. That is especially a big question. Only the Price Waterhouse accountants who add up the digital ballots can answer in a year so hugely affected by the LA wildfires and complete devastation for so many. Sorry, I'm not trying to make fun of the LA wildfires and that complete devastation. Obviously, that is not funny. A lot of them Academy members, which a lot of it is related to, this is my own obvious amazing insights, but definitely to do with factors involving the freakish weather that seems to have been prevalent, not just in LA though, but worldwide, you know. And whether it's global warming, global cooling, global extremes, you know, is probably a better term for it in my opinion. And the overall flux that the weather seems to be in. I don't think people are firing laser beams into LA though, and installing nanobots through injections or anything like that. But I think, you know, raking the floors would have helped definitely, as Trump suggested. So that if there'd been more people raking the floors and clearing leaves and stuff, that would have definitely prevented the wildfires. Pundits can pontificate all they want, but no one but a couple of bean counters, that's not a reference to Beanstone, aka Mandela Man, knows the truth at this moment. So we really need the bean counters out. Here's my best guess, but as I always say, please don't sue me if I'm wrong and you lose your Oscar betting pool because you went with my hunches. Well, frankly, if your hunches are not right, who wrote this? Dave Hammond. Pete Hammond, sorry. I don't know where Dave came in, but that's probably thinking of Lynch. No. Right, anyway. I'm just trying to get rid of a pop-up video with James Franco. Well, not James Franco. Dave Franco, is it? His brother, anyway. So, okay, let's just carry on with the reading. Forget about pop-up videos. Who cares? Well, I care, okay? But I can't get rid of it. Right. Please just scroll down screen now. Yeah, I mean, pop-up videos silently going on in the corner that I can't get rid of now. This is just so typical and annoying, really. But not annoying, but just predictable is the word. We're just given so much sort of over saturation with media, different sources and things, so we can never make up our own minds. And we're just lost amidst the forest. We can't see the forest for the trees, basically. This is the same for anything really online, I'd say. So just, I would say, don't go online unless you're watching Twin Peaks Coffee Time. That's the main thing. Best Picture, the nominees. This is probably going to take me 4 hours now. But I'm not going to go through every film now. But I'll give you my own predictions for Best Picture nominees, and from the nominees, I'll pick my possible winner. Bearing in mind, there are certain films on this which I'm not massively familiar with, including Emilia Perez, Anora, Nickel Boys. I think I'm wondering if The Substance could have a chance since it won at the Emmys. Um, I mean, I don't think that Dune Part 2 will win Best Picture. I don't necessarily think The Brutalist will, which is over 3 hours, an Adrian Brody film, which I know many people have spoken very highly of. I can't really see The Wicked winning Best Picture either. So I wonder whether A Complete Unknown is a possibility. Um, I would actually think that something like The Substance could surprise people and win Best Picture, um, just because it's different. It's not necessarily the best film there, I'm not sure about that, but I think because it sort of came at a time when probably people wanted a film like that, something which is almost like a straight to video or a video, hit in the mould of something like the 80s film Society, but it's got Lynchian aspects in there even. I don't necessarily think it's the best film that came out this last year, but it could win. Anyway, we'll see. I don't genuinely know otherwise. Conclave, which is very much a popular film.
He's been doing web series and commercials and everything, and because of that, he's the most confident first-time director I've maybe ever seen, and to this day, I've never seen him stressed out, to the point where, like, I want to shake him sometimes and be like, dude!
So, yeah, was Conclave there in the Best Picture anyway? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, it was obviously. This guy reckons Anora and Conclave will win. Either one of the other. One or the other. So yeah, leading actor. There's only 5 nominees: Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes Conclave, Sebastian Stan The Apprentice, who plays Donald J. Trump in The Apprentice. I don't think Sebastian Stan will win as for The Apprentice, even though it's a good film. But it's I can't see that being a winner. Ralph Fiennes is a definite possibility for that one, I would imagine. We'll see. Yeah, I'll go with Ralph Fiennes, just because Conclave seems to have attracted a lot of people to watching it and praising it, even though it's one of these films that is sort of a bit old-fashioned in the sense of it gets an audience who are maybe not necessarily wanting to go and see something which is incredibly exciting and just something a little bit more slower paced, and old-fashioned, a serious kind of film. But anyway, we shall see. Adrian Brody is apparently the front runner, but who knows? Maybe Timothy Chalamet will win. Leading actress Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sophia Gascon, Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison, Honora, Demi Moore, The Substance, Fernanda Torres, I'm Still Here. I genuinely have no idea for this one because there's, you know, 3 films there which I don't even know much about, which is a disgrace, I know, but there is some thought that Demi Moore could win, which would be, I would have no problem whatsoever with that. But I mean, I'm not suggesting that Substance is an amazing film or anything like that. But I just think a film like that winning at the Oscars would be quite a good thing because it's not something which is heavily usually given awards so much, that kind of a film. You know, some people could view it almost just as a straight out body horror, body creature of the week film. I don't know. I mean, it's got mixture of Cronenberg, you know, Lynchian things, just straight outright, you know, almost straight to video horror, but it goes on for 2 hours. You know, I saw it in the cinema and I enjoyed it for what it was. I think it's a pretty well-made film. I had some issues with its running length. I thought it was a bit overlong, but that's got nothing to do with the actor or actress in it, you know. So, supporting actor, no idea on this, but I would probably go with someone like Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, which is a film which is interesting to me and which they predict in this article as well. So, supporting actress, Isabella Rossellini, Conclave. Monica Barbaro for A Complete and Unknown, Barbaro. Ariana Grande, Wicked, Felicity Jones, The Brutalist. Zoe Saldana, Emilia Perez. Purely because I don't know who she is, Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown probably is going to be a possibility, but they here are predicting Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez, which I can imagine is a possibility as well, because every film I've seen Zoe Saldana in, including the Guardians of the Galaxy, she's always been good in. So, director. This predicts Sean Baker for Honora. I really can't weigh in on this one because I don't know enough about the nominees. Adapted screenplay, prediction, Conclave by Peter Strahan. That's definitely a possibility, I think. Adapted screenplay, original screenplay. The winner, Honora by Sean Baker. I can't really say anything about this other than the possibility. Animated feature, I definitely will go with The Wild Robot for this one, I think. But they predicted Flow here, which I don't know anything about. The Wild Robot has been highly praised and swept the Annies, the Annies? Nothing to do with Annie Blackburn, but the undercat here is Latvia's wonderful Flow. Charming audiences since Cannes and winning a boatload of awards itself. Flip a coin, they say. Or this article says. International feature, the nominees. Emilia Perez is predicted as the winner. Documentary feature, the winner, Porcelain War. I don't know enough to start going on about these, so we'll just go quickly through the rest. Cinematography, Brutalist, Lol Crawley. From what I know of that film, it sounds highly likely. But then again, Emilia Perez, Maria could be definite possibilities there. Maria Callas is, of course, called Maria. Costume design, the winner, Wicked. That sounds a definite possibility in terms of the Paul Tazewell. He was obviously the main costume designer. Production design, Wicked, definitely a possibility. Film editing, Conclave, Nick Emerson, prediction. Makeup and hairstyling, The Substance. Well, that's as good as any guess. So, original score, a bit more interesting. The suggestions are The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez. Sorry, these are the nominees, not suggestions. Wicked and The Wild Robot. Apparently, The Wild Robot score is highly praised and irresistible. Daniel Bloomberg's The Brutalist score has the most buzz. The big question is, do voters understand the Wicked nomination is for the score, not the songs, which are all from the Broadway show? It could be the spoiler here if voters simply vote for the most musical of the nominees. I don't imagine that people do think that the entire soundtrack to Wicked is just, or should I say the score is just the songs. I think that these voters are generally aware of that, I would imagine, but there's probably going to be some confusion. But the suggestion is that Wicked could win, but who knows? Who knows? Original song, El Mal is the suggested winner from Emilia Perez. The other ones include Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late. Yeah, I don't think that one's going to win, to be honest. But sound, just a hunch that the CAS winner carries the day on the back of Bob Dylan and the complex work of the sound team. Definitely a possibility, considering that the Bob Dylan film A Complete Unknown is about, obviously a musician and singer. So therefore, this kind of award is very suited. Visual effects, Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, or Wicked. If voters want to fawn over Wicked, it will get the benefit of that here. But I don't understand why would they want to fawn over it. But this should be a sure thing for the sequel to a past winner in the category. The winner, Dune Part 2. Animated short film. The winner, Yuck, possibly. Documentary short film. The suggestion is the winner will be The Only Girl in the Orchestra. We will see, we will see. Live action short film, The Last Ranger. Good luck to all. Reminder, don't sue me if you lose your pool. So that's the rest. That's all of those, as covered in this article at least. Hopefully I can read a few comments here. There's 5 comments. Other than Flow, amazing, and Honora and The Substance, both very good but way too long. Both are very good and way too long, both Honora and The Substance. I would agree that The Substance could have about 15 minutes trimmed from it. I found all the other films unimpressive. I won't be watching the show until there are clips on YouTube. To wit, greatly disappointed. That's the person. That's the name of their post. Bravo responds with, can't wait to see your contribution to cinema. Anonymous, oh, anyone using these pics will definitely lose their pool. Talk to the hand. Oscar expert, has gone completely into writing a full article. As for Best Picture, it is indeed a toss-up after Conclave's last-minute surge with BAFTA and SAG. I hope it wins, as it would be a much better pick than Anora, but again, we have a nail-biter here. Actress is a little more complicated, but I believe Madison has it. Sound is a pretty easy call for Dune, and score is a pretty easy call for The Brutalist. Director will be a nail-biter, but I believe that they'll land on the right answer with Corbet, the obvious winner in the category. Corbet is... Is he the director for... Let me just check. Is Corbet the director of The Brutalist? Let me just check. No. Okay, let me just check this 1 second and then I'll finish. Yeah, The Brutalists. Anyway, we shall see. We shall see. Some fascinating insights there for you. Okay, we have got Phantom Cooper coming in at the last minute now. Well, now 14 minutes ago. So, apologies for not seeing your comments, but I was concentrating on that article, and I have a few issues with the a few things on the screen here, which is a bit ridiculous, I know. But and I'm on a different, older laptop than the one I was using earlier because of certain other issues. James, did you watch the new season of Castlevania? It was so good. Well, since I don't even know what Castlevania is, even though you've mentioned it before, let me just look it up for, because I am a dutiful host here, with massive viewing figures as well. Remember, I'm actually sounding a bit like Donald Trump at this point, but that's a bad thing. So, Castlevania is an American adult animated dark fantasy action television series created and written by Warren Ellis for Netflix. 4 seasons, starting in 2017. Inspired by the popular video game series, this anime series is a dark medieval fantasy. It follows the last surviving member of the disgraced Belmont clan, Trevor Belmont, trying to save Eastern Europe from extinction at the hands of Vlad Dracula Tepes. As Dracula and his legion of vampires prepare to rid the... And then I can't read the rest. So yeah, since I've actually been to the world of humanity's stain, Belmont is no longer alone, and he and his misfit comrades race to find a way to save mankind from the grief-maddened Dracula. Well, even for something that I would not normally watch, because of my own, terrible viewing habits, etc. I mean, it's got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. Not that I give these things much credence or anything, but, I have actually been to Bran in Transylvania, so maybe this is something that I should watch. Maybe, I could at least watch a few episodes. It was so good. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, it's not supposed to sound like I'm making fun of what you're writing there. It's just, I'm saying it in a dramatic way, way of speaking. Dracula is a lover boy. Okay. Well, I don't know what that means. You mean that Dracula is like a romantic lead or something? Anyway, I appreciate all of the comments, Prancer Cooper, but other than Castlevania, are there any other things you would recommend for viewing? Because, there are a lot of different TV shows out at the moment, but I don't know. I mean, there's a few here and there that I would watch. For instance, the A Thousand Blows on Disney, but I actually stopped my subscription to Disney. Um, and it's pretty much just a period drama. Well, from the writer of, or from the maker of Peaky Blinders, with Stephen Graham in full boxing mode. It's not as interesting as, for instance, that the North Water, which I really liked, with Jack O'Connell as well, and Colin Farrell. So but who knows? Unless I've actually seen it. So, but thank you again for any comments, though, Phantom Cooper. I think the new Nosferatu, was pretty mid. It wasn't as good as the original or the Herzog one. Yeah, I mean, for me, I would pretty much agree with that. But I was never a massive fan of the Lighthouse from Eggers. I think that it was a bit too sort of just not trying enough to be something fresh or new. It was a little bit like you say, mid in its sort of approach, being a bit mainstream almost, really, for a sort of audience who maybe have never watched any of the previous Nosferatu films. It's sort of giving everything really, an in-depth explanation, and the whole story is sort of very steady throughout. I mean, it has some interesting, good bits of film direction and just style overall, but I mean, that is not in itself going to make it a good film. I think that it was I think my main issue with it from watching it was that I didn't find Nosferatu very scary. Um, or, there was enough anything very sinister about it. It was more just gloomy, and so I didn't really find that very, fascinating overall as a horror film. It felt also like the Avengers when all the vampire hunter dudes as get together to stake Orlok. I did enjoy Willem Dafoe as Van Helsing, though. Yeah, I mean, Willem Dafoe is always good in anything, really. That's the thing. But there was a film where he got trapped inside a apartment in, like New York. I can't remember what it's called, but that was from a couple of years ago, and that was good. But that's partly because it's got Willem Dafoe in it, as the main actor, who's in every scene, But Willem Dafoe was in The Lighthouse, and I was not mad keen on that film. So, you know, even though it got highly praised. So, other than that, I went to the cinema to see Flight Risk, which is fairly just a pretty mundane thriller with Mark Wahlberg and other people. Then I also saw not Passengers, Companions, which I was not mad keen on either, really. It was okay, but it was nothing particularly striking about it, I suppose. It was just, to use your word, mid. It was a bit pedestrian and mainstream for what it wasn't really either a thriller or a horror film, or it just seemed almost a bit teeny aimed. Even though the filming was pretty good, and I didn't find any problem with any of the uh, actors in it overall. It was just didn't really stand out as anything in its sort of style of filming, direction, the soundtrack, etc. It all seemed a bit paint by numbers. So anyway, in the meantime, before we do another show, anyway, we'll have to find other things to talk about and other new viewing pleasures. So feel free to leave any suggestions still in the chat, or when we go, not well, obviously before we go live next time. So leave a comment after the video if you want Phantom Cooper. But yeah, I will be heading off now at an hour and a half. So 90 minutes of coffee time for you there. Hopefully some of it is entertaining. So all the best for now, and let's talk soon. Bye for now. See you in the trees.